Hello, American Patriots. Douglas Ducote here. I am safely back from the American-Mexico border and going to bring to you what I witnessed with my own eyes, what I heard, and probably this is the most important video I've ever done because I'm going to expose some things that are very disheartening, concerning, evil, and outright disgusting. I'm going to tell you about some things that even the media will not tell you. They don't talk about because they're too horrific. My main goal of going down there was because we get, as Americans, two sides of a story. The liberals and Democrats in Washington, D.C., and their members of Congress, along with their media, CNN and MSNBC, tell us there is no border crisis, tell us that our president is making this all up, yet the Republican members of Congress, conservatives, Fox News, tell us there is a huge crisis on the border. So we have two parts of America that are completely split on this issue. I've seen people like Sean Hannity from Fox News, and so have many of you, go to the border and report live and talk to these Border Patrol agents. We've seen the president do it, and members of his cabinet, Homeland Security secretaries do it. Yet the Democrats come back and say this is all not true. It's a lie. They made it all up. So, as a retired U.S. Army soldier that has seen some of the worst that humanity has to offer, and some of the best, someone that expects my leaders in America not to lie to me, as a former law enforcement officer, I want to get to the truth. I want to get to the bottom of what's truth and what's lies. And if you're lying to me and the American people, I don't care if you're President Trump or you're Nancy Pelosi, then I want to call you out and say, stop it. So I went down there myself. I met up with some friends, law enforcement friends, and I'm going to share with you some of what we experienced. So to start with, let me say this. I hope that you will share this video with all your family and friends. And I hope that you will also be encouraged after this video to reach out to members of Congress and demand that they take action. The action that I will shortly tell you about. Also, there's no way to make this a short video. I would like to. I realize that, YouTube tells me and all YouTubers that the average listening span of someone when they click on your video is only a few minutes. If that's the case, well, I'm sorry. You're not gonna get this information anywhere else. So I hope you'll bear with me. So let's get right on to it. All right. So we can make this as quick as possible. I wrote down some bullet points of what I want you to know. Facts. First off, who did I meet with? Who did I talk to? And who took me out and showed me around exactly what they were saying and exactly what our president has been saying. I met with members of the U.S. Border Patrol. I met with members of Customs. I met with Texas State Police. I met with Brownsville City Police. I met with Cameron County Sheriff's Office. I met with local homeowners and local business owners. And I met with members of patriot organizations that patrol the border in areas that Border Patrol just does not have the staff to be at. And they report back activity and where it's at and the locations, grid coordinates, and then Border Patrol sends people to that area where they're coming to intercept them. All right. So these are the people that I talked to and that showed me what was happening. Not just a talking point from CNN or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, but this is what's happening. Now let us show you what's happening. Okay? Bear with me. In this process, I'm going to skip forward here for a second because I think this is very, very important to hear this at the beginning of the video in case some of you decide to tune out. One of the questions that I ask each of these agencies, if there was one thing that I could take to the American people, and they know that my YouTube channel only has about 117,000 subscribers, and they know that my Real World Witness radio show doesn't reach millions. But as me, from what I do have and the knowledge that I do share with people and people spreading it and what have you, if there was one thing I could tell my audience, what would it be? And unanimously, they all said the same damn thing. And by the way, I didn't meet them all together at once. I met them individually and separately. You know, when I met with Border Patrol, it was just Border Patrol. There's nobody else there. When I met with Texas Police, it was just a Texas trooper. It wasn't, you know, other members of other law enforcement agencies. So they didn't have a chance to get together and come up with their talking points, okay? So I said to all of them, what's the number one thing that I could get out to the people? And they all said this: we would like to know why the only people that come to this border to hear what you're hearing and seeing what you're seeing, in other words, allowing us, the people that deal with it 24/7, day in and day out, why is it that the Democrat members of Congress do not come do that? Only Republican members of Congress and people like Sean Hannity from Fox News go to the actual men and women that are on the border doing the job. Now, to go out there on that border, it's hot, it's nasty, it's dusty, it's dirty, okay? My guess is they don't want to take their suits off and their ties off, and it'll look, they won't be prim and proper anymore. I don't know, all right? What I do know, and they all said the same thing, Republican members of Congress will come there and go out with them on their missions, as I did, and see it firsthand. Democrats won't, but they will sit up in Washington, D.C. and lie their butt off and tell you, the American people, it's a made-up crisis. The only thing Democrats come to the border to see, guess what, is the holding facilities that some of these people are in, to include children, while waiting to move to the next step, because it's a process of what they have to do when someone's detained. They will go to the holding facilities, will not ask questions of the people that are in charge of them, but will get interpreters to try and talk to the families that do not speak English. They will not go. CNN won't do it. MSNBC won't do it. And Democrats will not go talk to the Border Patrol, Customs, Texas State Police, Arizona State Police, New Mexico State Police, anywhere along the border. The city police departments there, the county sheriffs there, the local homeowners and local business owners. So, to all the Democrat members in Congress, those that are on the border risking their lives, keeping us Americans safe, they would like to know why you will not bring your ass down there to see firsthand that President Donald J. Trump is not lying to the American people. And Republicans and conservatives are not lying to the American people. You are. Bring yourself down there and see what I saw, hear what I heard, witness what I was witness to. Now, let's move on to the next topic. who's coming across the border? All right. First off, it's literally thousands of people. All right. 24/7. Daylight, midnight, 12 noon, doesn't matter. In just the small sector I was in one night, 170 people were apprehended. Okay, and then that's in like a quarter-mile area. How long's the border? Thousands of people are coming across. Who are they? Well, it seems they're not your average Mexican citizen. When we think of illegal aliens, we automatically think, since it's the southern border, it's Mexico. It's Mexicans. And we want Mexicans that are legal residents. We don't want the criminal element. We don't want the crime element. Every day, hundreds of thousands of Hispanic Mexicans cross the U.S. border in cars and on foot through checkpoints legally. They have been vetted by Homeland Security, and they are allowed to come here and work. And they work and do a great job. And at the end of their shift, they cross back over the border through the checkpoints to their home where they live. Their home that they're proud of. They're proud of Mexico. They don't want to live here in America. They're not coming to try and get here to invade us. They just want to work, and there's no work for them where they're at. So they come here legally, do their job, and go back to their home, their wife and kids, or husband and kids, or whatever the case may be. And I watched it happen. I watched them at checkpoints come across, many of them. And then I watched, literally, not a quarter mile from the checkpoint, Border Patrol apprehending people coming across the Rio Grande. Now, if you're allowed to legally set yourself up to come to America to work, why would you be trying to cross the Rio Grande or climb up over a fence or risk your lives coming across the desert in horrible areas with rattlesnakes and heat and no water and food? Why would you do that? Guess why? Because you are a criminal. And you can't come through the checkpoint. You have a history of bad behavior. You're a gang member, MS-13 member. You're a rapist. You're a murderer. You've been convicted of child molestation. You name the crime. They're the only ones from Mexico, Mexican citizens, that are trying to get into America, because when they do get arrested in Mexico, they're put in a jail that is horrible conditions. It's nothing like jail here in America. It is like, just imagine the worst case scenario you possibly could, and that's what they're faced with in the Mexican jail system. If they get caught here in America, they would prefer to be in a nice, cushy, comfortable, air conditioning, heating, nice bed, clean water and food. It's like nothing they've ever experienced before, so they don't give a damn. So when President Trump said Mexico's not sending their best, Mexico's not sending their finest, he was 100% spot on. They're not. Mexico is sending legally through the border checkpoints their finest, those that are not criminals, those that want to work, those that want to help America, those that love America and love their own country. They go back to it. They don't run off and escape their work site. They go back to Mexico. That's their home. But at the other areas in between the checkpoints, the only Mexicans that cross there are those that we do not want here because they are a criminal of other things besides crossing the border. Why else would you risk your life doing that? Now, who are the women and children that are coming across the border? Doug, wait a minute. We've seen the video. Guess what? They're not Mexicans. They're from Central and South America. They're from Venezuela. They're from Honduras. And mixed in with them, guess what? You ready for this? Cubans, Muslims, people from other countries like China that are bad people that can no longer fly into America after 9/11 because when they get to the airport coming into America, they would be arrested once we found out who they were. How else can they get here to do us harm? They could fly into Mexico or Central or South America where they're not going to be vetted and mix in with these crowds and come on up and try and cross the border illegally because they can't go through the checkpoints. While we're talking about Hispanics, this will not be covered on the news. You won't hear it on Fox News. You won't hear it on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, none of them. Okay? They're not covering what I'm fixing to tell you. And what I'm going to tell you is disgusting and horrible, and it is the worst of human society that exists on planet Earth. It is the devil itself. It is evil. Along the Mexican border in Mexico, in areas away from the cities, we know, our military knows, our government knows, and so does Mexico, that mixed in with the drug cartel training camps is now Muslim training camps for Islamic radicalness. And they, while I was down there, and this is how we know this, because they're not reporting it, the people that come across legally are telling these stories to the Border Patrol agents. Some that they've known for a long, long time because they've been coming across this border legally for 10, 15, 20 years. And some of these agents have been there that long too. They're on a first name basis. Some of them are even related. They're telling them, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what just happened yesterday. These radical Islamic Muslims went into a Christian church, grabbed the babies out of cribs by their feet, and swung them around and bashed them up against the wall, busting their heads open and killing them all. And then they went and infiltrated into these caravans. Yeah. It's pretty damn disgusting. That's what's mixing in. That's what we don't want here. Mexico itself, they've lost all control of the drug cartel. And now working with the drug cartel, they have those coming from the Middle East that they can't get rid of. They can't get rid of the drug cartel, much less get rid of these guys. So what used to be only in places like Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran, Syria, is now happening right across the border. Once again, our president was spot on. 99.9% is the average of illegals crossing from other countries such as Central and South America. 99.9% of all those illegally crossing are other than Hispanic Mexicans. I met a man, and I'm going to call him Mr. Rudy. For security reasons, I'm not going to tell you his real name or where he lives. I will tell you this, that I could easily pick up a rock and throw it from his front porch and hit a border fence. He has a graveyard in his yard. About 15 graves. And they're all were his pets, his dogs. Because there are mules, drug mules, and these bad people coming across the border, when he's asleep, he has the dogs out there to alert him. They will bark and whatnot. That way he can at least get up and get his gun to stay safe. He's an old man. He's like in his late 70s. He's got a lot of problems. He has no wife. He has no kids. He's by himself living there. He's lived there all of his life on this border. He told us stories that there's no way in hell I've got time to tell it all. But I spent over 2 hours with him, and he took us around on his property. His property butts up to the Rio Grande. When they come across and they encounter the dog, they have something with them, be it a baseball bat or a billy club, whatever, or a weapon or a knife. The dog barks, they kill the dog. By the time he gets up, gets his pants on, gets his gun, gets out there, they've long gone, and his dog's dead. Buries his dog, goes into town to the local animal shelter, and rescues another dog and hopes that it'll be around for a while. They don't bother going to the left or to the right just 50 feet because that's as far as the dog can get on his chain. Nope. Some of the times the dogs have been killed right there by the porch. In other words, the dog was retreating, going, I'm not going to attack you. And they killed it anyhow. Who they were, we don't know. Were they Hispanic? Were they Muslim? Were they Cuban? Don't know. He didn't catch them. They were long gone. But he's got a pet cemetery. As I petted the dog he currently has, I wondered how much longer this pup has before it's dead. It brought a tear to my eye because I love animals. And it was sad to know that I'm petting a dog that's going to soon die. But he doesn't know what else he can do. He has no money. The house is not worth much. It's just he's being overrun. Anyhow, some of the things that they've encountered, law enforcement has encountered, as well as those that American patriots that are on the border going along and reporting back to law enforcement where things are happening that are bad. They've come across lots of dead bodies. They've come across lots of bones. And they've come across what they call rape trees. That's what they've nicknamed them. A tree with a chain around it locked. Chain's 25 feet long or so. A collar at the end of it. And the human remains of typically a child female. Some are women or younger girls, teenagers. And laying around that whole area is condoms. Where, for whatever reason, during the travels, they've signaled out which girl they're going to gang rape. And again, we don't know who did it. Was it somebody from, another country, from the Middle East? Was it a Cuban? Was it one of the people from Central America, South America? There's no way of knowing because they weren't caught. They were long dead by the time they came across them. One of the gentlemen told us that with his property he owns along the border, over 1,000 acres of land, every single year, 7 to 8, sometimes 10 dead bodies where people only got so far and that's where they collapsed and died. He was telling us a story about recently driving on his property. He has his daughter with him. I think he said she was 11. And they're just looking for signs of anything out of the ordinary so they can report back to law enforcement. It's their land. And his daughter says, "Look, Dad, there's a lady under the tree over there." And he looks and he sees appears to be a woman leaning up against a tree sleeping. So they drive over there, and she'd been dead for about 3 days. That's everywhere. They're finding this. When our president says women and children and little girls are being raped and molested by evil monsters, and the Democrats say it's made up, they're lying. It's not made up. When our president says Mexico doesn't send their finest, they send their worst, and the Democrats say he's lying, it's made up, it's not lying, it's not made up. They're lying. When our president says there is a crisis on the border, and the Democrats say no, there isn't, he's lying, he made this up, he's not. They are. It's a crisis. Law enforcement along the border is so understaffed, and the border is so massive for thousands of miles, that they are asking those that have retired from their agencies, if they will come back to work, they will get full pay, just like they were when they retired, and still be able to keep their retirement check. They will get the double dip. That's how understaffed law enforcement is. Now, what is the answer to this? How do we fix this? What I got from talking to all of these people, all these different law enforcement agencies, the people that live there, and seeing how massive this border is, you would have to hire probably 200,000 additional law enforcement officers. It's never going to happen. Maybe if we still had, the Republicans had the House and the Senate, maybe. They didn't do shit when they had it to start with. Now the Democrats have the House, forget it. It's not happening. So what's the other option? Well, President Trump has said, I'll just shut the border down. I'll close the border down. We'll fix this. I'll shut the border down. You can't shut the border down between this sector and this sector of where they come in. You can shut down that border entry area and this border entry area. What are you stopping from coming into America? I already explained that to you. Those that are legally able to come here that we want here. Are you stopping the in-between? No. There's no magical fence that will just jump up and stop them from coming. It doesn't stop anything. They continue to come. You can shut down every border entry point that we have, which is what he's threatened to do, and it's not going to stop the murderers, rapists, bad criminal element from coming into America. We still have the problem. It doesn't go away. The only thing it could possibly do, maybe, is force the hand of the Mexican government to stop these people from crossing into their country and allowing them to cross their country to get to America. Maybe, possibly. But it ain't going to happen overnight. And in the meantime, who suffers? The people that have been legally coming to America, that we've invited, that we want here for years, now have no job, can't feed their families. They suffer. Not the Mexican government, not Americans. So you either build a wall to stop the illegals from coming in, and I've already told you who they are, or you activate the National Guard to active duty orders, not allowing the states to send them down, because we've seen how that works. states that have Democrat governors and liberal governors say, forget it, we're not sending our guys. We're not supporting this military operation. Don't work that way. If you activate them, President Trump, if you activate them on military orders, active duty orders, you control them, not the state governors. Then you send 200,000 plus to the border in between the checkpoints. Hell, it's better than the conditions in Afghanistan and Iraq and the Middle East. Let them set up camp there just like I set up camp when I deployed to overseas operations. And patrol that border. And also, President Trump, I want you to know this. When you did send the National Guard down there before these liberal governors started yanking them back, guess what? Because you didn't put them on active duty orders, the states didn't even send them down with weapons. That's right. No AR-15s, M16s, M60s, 9mm handguns, nothing to protect themselves with. They were just hopefully a deterrent because they're in a military uniform. That is nuts. You activate our National Guard and you start a rotation to the border. Build up camps all along the border, in between the checkpoints, and you start patrolling it, and you will stop this horrible national disaster that we are faced with. That is the only way this will work, unless you can put a giant wall. And the Democrats will not allow you to get the money to do that. You declare a national emergency, and they're fighting you right down courts to stop that national emergency. And that may happen. If it does, what do? But in the meantime, even if the Democrats gave you the money tonight to put a border 50 feet tall wall from one end to the other, it would take years. And we're still going to have the exact same problem. So in the meantime, the National Guard needs to be down there, activated on active duty orders, just like they were deploying anywhere else to fight a war, because it is a war. It is. It's an invasion of our country. Anyhow, contact your congressman, congresswoman, especially the Democrats, and ask them the same thing I'm going to. Come Monday morning when I start making phone calls and sending emails and contacting them all over social media and sharing this video. Why? Why, Democrats? Why CNN? Why MSNBC? Do you say there's no problem and it's a made-up crisis, yet you have never went to the men and women that are risking their lives on the border to keep us safe? You just look into a camera like I'm looking into this one, and you lie, lie, lie. Stop lying. Take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for your actions. Step up. Be a man. Be a woman. I don't care if you don't like Donald Trump. I don't care if you hate conservatives and Republicans. Stop lying to the American people. We deserve to have the people we send to Congress, at least, if nothing else, don't lie to us. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, first responders, their families, our Blue and Gold Star families, our president, our country. To all the men and women in law enforcement that took the time out of your day to talk to me, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I will continue to bring your story to the American public in hopes that you will get some sort of help doing your job. You guys that I met and your coworkers are true American heroes, patriots. Thank you. Hope everyone has a wonderful and blessed Easter. For now, I'm Douglas Ducote, and I'm out.